Hi there, welcome back to Safe People by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. Copyright 1995, Chapter 5. Do I have a safety deficit? My family went on a summer vacation when John, was about 12. The six of us traveled to a mountain retreat to enjoy the scenery and activities. One afternoon, we all climbed up to the top of a large hill to view the landscape. On the way down the steep hill, my 10-year-old Lynn began running faster and faster until she was out of control. Disaster loomed at the bottom of the hill. A long stretch of barbed wire fencing straddled the incline, and Lynn was headed straight right toward it. Trying to stop, but taking longer and longer strides. I can still see her thin white legs pinwheeling crazily down the steep hill. My father screamed, "Turn, Lynn, turn," hoping that the change of angle would slow her down. Hearing him, my sister veered to the side and immediately caught her shoulder on the trunk of a large tree on the hillside. She hit hard. The impact spun her around and slowed her down enough to fall down and roll a few feet. She stopped about 4 feet from the barbed wire. When we reached Lynn, her side was already turning blue from the bruising she'd received. She was crying and in lots of pain, but she'd missed fire. Had she run across the fence at her rate of speed, my sister could have been badly cut. As we tell the story now, we always end with the words, "I never thought we'd be thankful that Lynn ran into a tree," but we were. Do I have enough safe people in my life? People with unsafe connections are often out of control, like Lynn, but with no tree to stop them. Instead, they have only the sharp barbed wire waiting at the bottom, unsafe friends who can badly hurt them if they run into them. What they need, however, are friends who are stable trees that can deflect them from disaster. As King David put it, "Let a righteous man strike me, it is a kindness." Psalms 141:5. Many of us live our entire lives surrounded by barbed wire without any trees to break our fall. We try to pick safe, loving, faithful friends and spouses, and over again, we become disappointed and discouraged. God created us to hunger and thirst for love, because love is our fuel, and God uses people to comfort us. 2 Corinthians 1:4. When we don't have enough safe relationships regularly sustaining us, we can be in real spiritual and emotional trouble. Yet we may not be aware that a lack of safe people is the problem. Research on athletics shows that when we work out, we need lots of water at short intervals. Otherwise, we risk dehydration, which can be serious. Yet we often don't feel thirst during exercise. In fact, the thought of water may make us feel nauseous during peak levels. In the same way, you may have acutely low levels of attachment inside. You may be safety deficient, and yet you may not know that you're in trouble. How can you evaluate if you're safety deficient or running low on safe people? Take a look at how you're doing in 4 areas of your life: relationships, functioning, physical health, and spiritual life. Relationships. The quality of our important friendships can tell us a great deal about how much safety we are receiving. Use the following questions as a guide to determine this. Number 1, do you tend to be the giver in relationships rather than having a mutual give and take? Number 2, do you find that people approach you when they want something from you and less to simply spend time with you? Number 3, is it difficult for you to open up about your real feelings and problems? Number 4, is it hard for you to see other people as a source of emotional and spiritual support? Number 5, do you prefer to be alone to deal with your problems? Number 6, have you become aware of a pattern in which things are okay when you're not disclosing yourself, but that people withdraw from you when you are honest about yourself? Yeah, especially on YouTube. Addition mind there. Number 7, do you feel that God is the only person who really knows and loves all of you? Number 8, do you find yourself choosing people who invariably let you down over time? Number 9, are intimate, vulnerable, two-way conversations with others more of a rarity than a regular event? Number 10, do you find most of your personal connections revolving more around activities than relationships? If you can identify with several of these questions, you may have some safety deficiencies in your life. Depending on your own personality structure and style, you'll experience safety lacks in a variety of ways. Functioning. How about your functional life? Work, activity, fun, and recreation are all about functioning. Many active, busy, productive people are surprised to find that their functioning levels have dropped for no apparent reason. This is often safety related. Monday blues is a good example. Everyone who's ever worked knows the feeling of dread and lack of motivation that accompanies a return to the office after the weekend. Most of the time, we explain Monday blues by contrasting the drudgery of work with the relief of weekends. Sometimes this is true. Often, however, people go from Friday to Sunday without any relational ties or connections. They may go to church, play softball, ski, or work around the yard, but with nary a soul to soul time of intimacy. This certainly wasn't God's intent when He instituted the Sabbath rest. Connection with was a vital part, as when Jesus worshipped in community with others on the Sabbath, Luke 4:16. In other words, Monday blues isn't always about how bad work is. It may be about how depleted we are from the lack of intimacy in our lives. Another sign of safety deficits is difficulty in completing tasks. Have you ever looked at the pile of projects on your desk or around the house and thought, might as well torch the lot of it, I'll never get it all done? Generally speaking, the first solution that comes to mind is discipline and organization. Get it scheduled out, plan the time, stick with it, and often discipline does help. Just as often, however, our safety deficits sabotage our ability to get things done. Make sure you check out simpleology.com, by the way. When it comes to making a to-do list and getting things done, it's excellent. I will put the link below. Why? Because of how God constructed us. We can't be finishers with an empty relational tank, no matter how committed and sincere we are. The fuel to be an aggressive self-starter is often simply not there. Remember, before God gave us our job description of subduing and ruling the earth, He first created us to be in relationship to each other. Genesis 1:27-28. Here's a partial list of other functioning problems that can have safety deficits at their root. Lapses in concentration, inability to think creatively, inability to take risks, loss of energy, motivation problems, and failure to achieve goals. It takes a lot of drive and energy to function, and if you're surrounded by the wrong people, you can be seriously hampered in this area. Physical health. Over the past few years, research has begun to focus on the close relationship between our minds and our bodies. This research simply affirms what scriptures have been telling us for millennia, that we don't have a body, we are a body. When David cried out to God in times of trouble, he was in acute physical and emotional pain. For my bones are in agony, my soul is in anguish. Psalm 6:2-3. Jesus' agony in Gethsemane caused sweat like drops of blood. Luke 22:44. Like David and Jesus, our physical well-being is also a good barometer of our emotional and spiritual life. In fact, many doctors attribute a high percentage of medical problems to stress and emotions, which can be quite relationship sensitive. Look at the following list: chronic headaches, gastrointestinal problems, back pain, susceptibility to viruses, weight issues. Even cancer and life expectancies have been linked to our emotional well-being. We can't ignore the medical signals we may be receiving. A small town in Pennsylvania named Roseto is a good example of the importance of relationships in our physical well-being. Many years ago, Roseto was populated by Italian immigrants who developed a reputation for unusually solid and long-lasting personal relationships. People were friends for generations, and they genuinely cared about each other. Not only was this town known for relationships, it was also famous for long life. The life expectancies of the citizens was significantly greater than that of the rest of the United States. Researchers began to study them to see what was different about these people. Quickly, the scientists found the most important variable: relationships. The deep interconnectedness between the residents was rare in other parts of the state and country, but there were two more important findings in this long-term study. First, the inhabitants of Roseto didn't take any better care of themselves physically than anyone else. They ate lots of red meat and fatty foods and smoked and drank as much as any American, yet they lived much longer. Second, the town was researched again in the 90s. By then, industrialization had made its mark. People left, new people moved in, and the connections were broken. Longtime residents observed that you no longer knew the people down the street. And guess what? As the connections disintegrated, life expectancies took a plunge. Just in case you're thinking of moving to Roseto, think again. Your chances of living longer there are no better than living anywhere else in the country. What a striking example of how safe people can make a measurable difference in our physical lives. Spiritual life. Finally, a lack of safe people can wreak havoc in your personal relationship with God. In fact, your relational condition and your spiritual condition are as intricately connected as strands on a rope. This is a major problem and a very real one. We often learn about the divine from the fleshly. As John writes, if anyone says, I love God, yet hates his brother, he is a liar. For anyone who does not love his brother, whom he has seen, cannot love God, whom he has not seen. 1 John 4:20. Unsafe people beget a picture of an unsafe God. Contrary to what some people say, our walk with God isn't an unshakable path, which cannot be affected by others. Others matter a great deal in how safe we feel with the Lord. Many people have lost intimacy with the Savior through believers who wounded them in His name. As Job said, for the despairing man, there should be kindness from his friend, lest he forsake the fear of the Almighty. Job 6:14. Have you ever been turned away from your fear of the Almighty by unkind friends? You're not alone. Think for a minute about your own journey with God. Most of us will remember periods of closeness and warmth, times of doubt and anger, and times when God seemed critical, dangerous, or even apathetic. Draw a simple timeline of your spiritual journal. Briefly identify and describe the stages you've experienced in your walk with God over the years, or months, or weeks. Now draw another timeline under that and ask the same thing about your closest relationships. Are there parallels in the two journeys? Often people find that in seasons of life when they felt they belonged to God, they also belonged to good people. And when God felt unsafe, so were the people. These two principles need to always be seen in relation to each other. Never evaluate your spiritual life without also looking at your life in the world. In summary, safety deficits can cut us off from a vital arm of God's resources, His people, and they can also cut us off from closeness with God Himself. Okay, I want to add a little bit of me in here, like I do, you know. Basically, they're saying that your relationship with God is kind of collateral with your relationship with people. And to me, I have not found that to be true. I have always been super tight with God, even when I'm upset with Him or He may not be happy with me. I know I can always go to Him and work things out. Not so much with people. My problem is unsafe people, not a God that feels unsafe. And people used to always say that to me, like, well, you find you get along better with this person if your relationship with God was right. No, my relationship with God was always tight and close and not a problem, but my relationship with people was entirely separate from my relationship with God. I could definitely have issues with people and be fine with God. So I don't quite agree with this chapter, that part of the chapter, that somehow the two are related all the time. For me, no, that's not the case. I can be fine hunky-dory with God and not with mankind. It's just how it is for me. Maybe not for you, but that's how it is for me. All right, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this reading. I'm glad it was a short one because I'm pretty tired from my day at Amber's. I'm just going to close it off there. I will let you know that on the next chapter, we are learning why do I choose unsafe relationships. So this was about safety deficit in relationships. The next one is why do you choose the unsafe relationships. So be watching for the next one. We'll see you there. Thanks. Bye.